Hello and welcome. Tonight, it's a night of tribute for an accomplished banker, Herbert Wigwe, who died in a helicopter crash with his wife, son, and 3 others in the U.S. Distinguished Nigerians eulogize his professional legacies as a banker and businessman. Minister of State for FCT, Maria Bonkure, describes the looting at the agriculture warehouse in Abuja as a criminal act, as broken walls and empty warehouse all paint a harsh reality of the incident. Gombe State government opens a new window for job opportunities with the launch of Outsourced to Nigeria initiative aimed at empowering the youth population. And the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Charles Ibuebu, assures industry players of transparent regulatory process ahead of proposed review of NBC codes.
On business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria slashes customs forex duty rate by 5.3% amid stability of the naira.
On sports news tonight, Falconets coach Christopher Danjuma alongside Flying Eagles manager Ladan Bosso unveils squad for the 13th edition of the African Games holding in Ghana.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, President Bola Tinubu returns to Nigeria after a 2-day state visit to Doha, Qatar, where he witnessed the signing of multi-sectoral agreements between both countries.
And in international news from London, the US Vice President Kamala Harris has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, saying people there are starving.
We start off from the nation's capital, where the Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory, Mrs. Maria Mahmood, believes that the looting of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development warehouse is not just about hunger in the land. She was speaking during an assessment of the damage done to the facility, which is located in the Karimo area of the nation's capital. Mrs. Mahmood adds that the looting is backed by those with criminal minds in view of the level of damage done to the facility. Our correspondent, Kumbi Abuluwade, reports.
This is what is left of the warehouse belonging to the Federal Capital Territory's Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in the Karimo area of the nation's capital after the facility was looted in the early hours of Sunday, March 3, 2024. The FCT Minister of State visits the facility in the company of officials of the Federal Capital Development Authority to access the level of damage. The minister gives a breakdown of the items looted.
Hoodlums attacked this very warehouse and packed everything that's here, including the grains, not only the food items that are here, including the roofings, windows, and even the gates of this space and offices were all attacked. Due to the nature of the situation in the country, His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, gave us a mandate to distribute palliatives to all the area councils in FCT. And we were there, we did distribution about twice. And then about to do the third one where these trucks were here to offload these food items. And then they were attacked, some were even injured. This is really a bad situation, and it's not something that we take it lightly. All those that are involved must be brought to book.
Already, 15 suspects have been arrested for their involvement in the incident, while some exhibits have been recovered, including foodstuff and other vandalized items. An early attempt on another warehouse in the Idu area of the nation's capital was foiled, and 5 persons were arrested by officials of the Nigerian army. The minister refutes claims of food hoarding and pledges to reinforce security presence in the warehouse.
This food is for them. Nobody is going to take it away from them, but it has to be done in an according manner. But the way this thing happened actually is beyond hunger.
Bros, come here.
Meanwhile, the FCT administration has denied reports of fresh attacks on truckload of food, explaining that the attacks seen in the viral video on Monday morning did not emanate from the FCT. From the nation's capital, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Ebunolu Adegborowa, is of the opinion that the looting of the warehouse in Abuja perhaps reflects the frustration most Nigerians are grappling with under the economic policies of President Bola Tinubu's administration. He adds that the situation sends a message to the president and his economic team that there is need to recalibrate the system to guarantee the survival of majority of Nigerians. Mr. Adegborowa was speaking on Channels Television's breakfast show, The Morning Brief.
I believe across all states of Nigeria presently, people are experiencing mass hunger as a result of the economic policies of the current administration. And this is also affected by blackouts and power outages in most parts of the country. The effect of the fuel subsidy removal is to impose hardship on the people in terms of moving from one end to the other. And of course, factories are closing down. There is high unemployment. And the cost of living is very high, whilst the earning capacity has remained the same or even lower. So what this means generally is that across all states of the Federation presently, there is crisis of survival on the part of the people.
And the federal government is to begin the distribution of grains nationwide to cushion the impact of the hardship in Nigeria. And that's according to the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari. In a message posted on his official X handle, the minister extended compassion to those affected by the hardships in the country. The message reads in part, quote, "Amidst these challenges, I want to assure you that our commitment to your well-being remains resolute. We shall commence the distribution of 42,000 metric tons of grains as approved by Mr. President across the 36 states of the Federation as one of the programs to be rolled out this week. We are working hand in hand with NEMA and the DSS to ensure that the grains get to the right people in the right packages and quantities," end quote. Now, the minister, who hailed the resilience of the Nigerian people, urged them to back President Bola Tinubu's government in its quest to address the challenges facing the country. It's time for Africans to speak as a collective voice and be our very own advocates in the global world order. This is according to the Chief of Staff to former President Muhammadu Buhari, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, at the opening ceremony of the Africa Summit of the Future Dialogue with the theme, "The Africa We Want and the United Nations We Need." According to Professor Gambari, Africans desire a United Nations where they will be key players in the definition, design and implementation of a new developing world order. Our correspondent, Victoria Longjohn, reports.
Regional leaders, government representatives, heads of multilateral agencies, members of the diplomatic corps and development partners have gathered for the Africa Summit of the Future Dialogue with the theme, "The Africa We Want and the United Nations We Need." The dialogue seeks to open a new vista for African policy researchers and advocates to critically discuss and advance policy research on what Africa wants and the type of relationship the continent needs to have with global bodies like the United Nations.
The time has come to have that change of mindset. Africa is part of the challenges, but also part of the solution. And in any case, if you look at the Charter of the United Nations, it says we the peoples of the United Nations. They say we the government. Yes, intergovernmental relations are the key of the operation of the UN, but the Charter emphasizes an organization of we the peoples of the United Nations.
Security of the region is pertinent on the minds of participants here, and speakers propose operationalization of the Africa Standby Force to serve as a signal to the world that Africa is ready to intervene in her affairs.
This order must be legitimate, must be pro-African, must be equitable, must be inclusive, and must be owned by the global south. And I'm sure You know what I'm talking of. The reform of the United Nations Security Council. That is the UN we need, not a paralyzed UN Security Council.
The chief of the government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, represented President Bola Tinubu at the event and his piece on the approach of the government to the security challenges in the continent.
I make bold to give the assurance that at every given opportunity at the various fora in the UN and the African Union, as well as our regional economic groupings, would listen to and support your efforts to push through. We are making every peaceful effort under my chairmanship of the authority of the heads of state and government of ECOWAS to negotiate a peaceful return of democratic governance and membership of the organization by the affected ECOWAS member states within the shortest possible time.
Africa's vast growing youth population and the need to foster economic growth through development bodies like the Africa Development Bank and other development partners to create jobs and improve the livelihoods for Africans was also highlighted. There is also the call to give the youth a seat at the table.
My message today is really a call to action to remind us that even as we deliberate, even as we bring forward recommendations on behalf of young people, that we include them in the conversation. But what we really want to do is learn from your extensive experience to build on what we know and to carry it forward.
The recommendations here are expected to lay a foundation for effective cooperation on the continent, as well as the establishment of an African network of think tanks that will follow up on the strategies at this summit. Victoria Longjohn for Channels Television News.
To the courts, the chairman of the Bayelsa Governorship Election Tribunal sitting in Abuja has adjourned the petition brought before it by the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Timipre Silva, indefinitely to await the decision of the Court of Appeal President on the allegations of bias and denial of fair hearing as raised by Mr. Silva and the APC. Mr. Silva and the APC had passed a vote of no confidence on the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, calling for an outright disbandment and reconstitution. Among others, the APC and its governorship candidate claimed that they had lined up 234 witnesses, but were ordered that the 234 witnesses must be called within 7 days only. At the day's proceedings, the tribunal chairman, Justice Adekunle Adeleye, said he did not know where the tribunal members have gone wrong, as alleged by the APC and Mr. Silva, and called for reactions. A counsel to INEC and the PDP said that both APC and Mr. Silva were not fair to the tribunal in their allegations of bias and distortion of facts. Staying with the courts, a former governor of Anambra State, Mr. Willie Obiano, is challenging the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, Abuja, to hear the alleged fraud preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The EFCC had on January the 24th arraigned the former governor on 9 charges bordering on alleged money laundering to the tune of 4 billion naira. At the day's proceedings, counsel for the EFCC, Silvanus Tahir, told the court he was ready for the commencement of trial and had 3 witnesses to present in court. But counsel for the defendant, Onyechi Beazu, told the court that he had filed a motion challenging the jurisdiction of the court to hear the matter. The trial judge, Justice Inyang Ekwo, then subsequently adjourned the matter to March the 7th this year for hearing of the motion. In part 2, after the break, eminent personalities turn out on the night of tribute for accomplished banker, the late Herbert Wigwe, celebrating professional excellence. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. It's a night of tribute for an accomplished banker, Herbert Wigwe, who died in a helicopter crash with his wife, son, and 3 others in the U.S. Distinguished Nigerians eulogize his professional legacies as a banker and businessman. Minister of State for FCT, Maria Mahmood, describes the looting at the agricultural warehouse in Abuja as criminal act, as broken walls and empty warehouse all paint a harsh reality of incident. Gombe State government opens a new window for job opportunities with the launch of Outsource to Nigeria initiative aimed at empowering the youth population. And the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down efforts by individual states to bar Donald Trump from running as a presidential candidate for November's election. It's a celebration of a great professional, Mr. Herbert Wigwe, Group CEO of Access Holdings, who died in a helicopter crash in the United States with his wife Chizoba, son Chizi, and former chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogubanjo, and 2 pilots. The event, which held at the Eko Hotel in Lagos, has the highest roll call of bankers, industrialists, government officials, and media executives in recent times. Many who spoke described Herbert Wigwe as a phenomenal banker and an excellent leader.
High-profile personalities making their way into the hall for the night of tribute, celebrating professional excellence. The roll call includes family members, colleagues in the banking industry, business associates, state governors, ministers, and the central bank team. And to precede the tribute, a choral performance by the 200th City Choir.
Beside the temple there.
The hall filled to capacity, all in honor of the man who epitomized hard work, excellence, and played a key role in the transformation and growth in the banking sector. His leadership attributes was evident in the establishment of Access Bank.
I met Herbert November 1991. We were both in the corporate bank. Very quickly, Herbert earned our respect. Herbert was one of the cleverest people in Guarantee Trust Bank. He was a credit analyst. But that's not what got him his respect, because we were all good analysts. But Herbert had what we all didn't have. He had the power to chase accounts, network, and deliver things that we all couldn't.
It suffices to state that Herbie D was confident and bold. Herbie D was never invited to face Uncle T at the dreaded CAC meetings where delinquent loans were discussed, all because he was diligent in lending and self-driven to collect whatever he loaned. One significant contribution of Herbert is GT Bank was a modest new generation bank. To attempt to onboard a multinational oil-producing company was audacious. Herbie D got to work. He closely marked the local treasury team of the corporation, made great friends with them, often using his personal resources to bond over Friday night drinks. He reached the head office team where the approval would come from. He tenuously presented the services and products I had for them and arranged management meetings until they completed and sent in those account opening forms. Herbert was an AGM at the time and got the trophy for making it happen from his sheer tenacity and boldness.
Others shared deep memories of the phenomenal Herbert while in school. For many, he was a distinguished scholar and one to be remembered always.
So I have known Herbert for 46 years. He joined us in 1978 in our Form 2. His father moved him from Federal Government College, Sokoto, and he came to Federal Government College, Warri. And when he joined us, he displayed certain character traits which distinguished him and set him on the path of greatness from an early stage. So I stand here before you to celebrate Herbert. It's not about how long he lived, but how well he lived. Herbert lived a great life.
I've known Herbert for over 36 years. He read accountancy, I read banking and finance. He remains a beacon of light and hope. Was a top-notch professional banker with sterling qualities.
And more tributes from those who had a personal encounter with a consummate banker, including business hold back his tears.
Herbert was a visionary role model in fortitude and a perfectionist of himself. Here with us, but his transformative strides are seen all over our economic landscape and even in the heart of social milieu in Nigeria and the rest of the world.
The CBN governor and the Minister of Finance say the death of Herbert Wigwe dealt a devastating blow to the banking sector.
As we come to terms with this loss, it is important that we celebrate the life of a man who dedicated himself to excellence and to service. Our hearts are heavy, and we just have to try to encourage ourselves with the wonderful life and legacy he has. Herbert Wigwe was my friend. He was my younger brother. He was my aburo. And like all of us here, I feel deeply
in his heart. And so, on behalf of the people and government of Lagos State, we will cherish what he stood for, what he believed in. And Lagos, I repeat, Lagos will not forget Herbert Wigwe.
He was extremely hardworking. He was daring. He was bold. He was diligent. He was intentional. He was consistent. He was compassionate. He was caring. He was reliable. Was dependable. Herbert was loyal to his friends. He was intelligent from every single account we've had this evening. Extremely cerebral. Herbert was way ahead of his time. He was ever so forward-thinking and forward-looking. He believed in this country, Nigeria, and he was very patriotic. He did everything.
Commission, Mr. Chibuebu, who Channels Media Group, and other members of the management team headquarters in Lagos earlier today.
There are two sides to a coin. So on one hand, there's a perception that MBC has been overreaching in the application of sanctions. We've not. It's been said that we did not follow due process and all of that. And basically, the takeaway from it is that it has been an arbitrary process. Now, part of my training as a lawyer is the fact that we will definitely put together a transparent process. I don't want to get into particular details. It's still in the process, but I can assure you there's going to be a change in that perception. It's going to be transparent, so much so people will be allowed to speak, they'll be allowed to defend themselves. The issues will be analyzed based on the code. We're going to have a code review where all inputs will be taken in, and that would address that perception. Now, on the other side of it, it's sort of strange. You have a policeman who cannot even issue a fine, if you agree with me. So, but we believe the way to go first is to address the perception. Of course, the case is in court, so I can't talk so much about it and the legality or otherwise. I am not allowed the sub judice, but we're going to also try to bring a change to that judgment part of what we're going to open a desk for in the NBC is basically to listen. So complaints shouldn't be restricted to complaints against broadcast. It should be how to facilitate an enabling industry, basically, that allows people to thrive, businesses to thrive. So if it needs us to go have a meeting with the customs, if it needs us to have a meeting with any government agency, so much so that we're seen to drive that ease of doing business, where stakeholders can bring up an issue to us, we take it up as a responsibility to engage with the relevant industry. You know, the same way you want to register a business with CAC and they have to write to us when it has to do with media, you know, and we have to give a confirmation of sorts. The same thing we're going to enable across board to engage businesses and to have, we're basically going to be there to assist businesses in a nutshell.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Central Bank of Nigeria slashes customs FX duty rate by 5.3% amid stable naira. That's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. Let's now head to the nation's capital, where Makwe Ogunyusuf is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studio. Hello, Makwe.
Hello, Ayo. President Bola Tinubu is back in the nation's capital, Abuja, after a two-day official visit to the state of Qatar. The president's plane landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at 6:37 p.m. While in Doha, President Tinubu and his host, the Emir of the State of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, witnessed the signing of 7 agreements between both nations. The president was also at the Nigeria-Qatar Business and Investment Forum, where he told Qatari investors that Africa's largest economy and its systems are being reformed and upgraded as Nigeria is ready for profitable and legitimate enterprise. In the northwest of the country, the Kaduna state government has inaugurated a committee for the resettlement of communities displaced by bandits in southern Kaduna and other crisis-ravaged communities across the state. Governor Sani, who was represented by his deputy, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe, at the inauguration, says the decision to resettle communities displaced by bandits is in response to a recommendation from the Kaduna State Security Council.
It is crucial that we approach this task with empathy, sensitivity, fairness, sense of urgency, and a commitment to inclusivity. We must actively engage with the displaced communities, listening to their voices, understanding their concerns, and involving them in our decision-making processes, because these decisions affect their lives. By fostering a participatory approach, we can ensure that our efforts are truly responsive to the needs and aspirations of those we seek to assist. I want us to leverage the expertise and resources available to us, because that will be the key to our success as we work towards the common goal of facilitating the dignified return and sustainable reintegration of these displaced persons back to their communities. I want to urge each member of this committee to bring your expertise, energy, and compassion to bear in the work that is before us. We must seize this opportunity to make a difference, not just in the lives of those we aim to help, but also in the broader pursuit of peace and stability. Let us remember that our work is not just about statistics or policy. It is about human lives. It is about dreams, and it is about aspirations.
Meanwhile, in the southeastern state of Abia, Dr. Alex Oti has set up a committee on the 35,000 Naira wage award announced by the federal government. During the working visit by the new leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress to the governor, he regretted that there are still bad eggs in the system who engage in the padding of salaries, providing cover for unverified workers.
You know that there are a lot of people who are drawing salaries that don't come to work. There are people who do not even live here, but every month they collect salary. So my challenge to NLC is also to help us in identifying such people. So we are not replicating and multiplying rules and offices just to create jobs for the boss. We are not going to do that. But what we are interested in is in the outputs. So I'm happy that you see what we are doing with the roads, with the environment, with power, and with the general well-being of our people.
And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back now to you, Ayo.
Thank you so much, Markwe. Gombe State appears to be stepping up its job creation drive with the launch of the Outsourced to Nigeria initiative, OTNI or OTNI, to kickstart a new scheme aimed at empowering the youth population. This event, which also featured the commissioning of the Business Process Outsourcing BPO Center, is touted to create some 2,000 job opportunities in the state. The Skills Acquisition Center is to become a hub for outsourcing services, leveraging the skills and potential of the youth in the state.
It's a full house at the International Conference Center in Gombe, the Gombe state capital, where top government officials, technology experts and invited guests are gathered for the launch of the Outsourced to Nigeria initiative, OTNI.
The arrival of His Excellency,
the event officially commences with the arrival of the Vice President Kashim Shettima in the company of the State Governor Inuwa Yahya and other officials.
His Excellency, the Governor of Gombe State, Muhammadu Inuwa Yahya Sioyan.
First, the Secretary to the State Government gives some insight into the day's event.
We hope that this collaboration will set a precedent for future collaborations between the BPO ecosystem and the public sector. This collaboration focused a future that showcases tangible results achieved through collective action that will inspire confidence and encourage further engagements.
Following a short documentary on the activities of Outsourced Global Limited, its founder and CEO, Amal Hassan, explains the potential of the initiative.
We take them through different kinds of training. We move them towards their strength. We identify their strength, and we move them towards their strength. We match their strength with the needs, the international market, and they succeed.
Next, Governor Inuwa Yahya intimates the audience with his plan to tackle unemployment through the establishment of the Business Process Outsource Center.
We are working with various stakeholders to equip our youth with the requisite skills and tools so as to take advantage of opportunities in these rapidly growing sectors. And together, we are laying the foundation for a brighter future for the state and Nigeria at large.
In his speech, the Vice President emphasizes Nigeria's potential to play big in global economy through strategic outsourcing.
Outsourcing as an economic strategy is not just about efficiency. It's a profound recognition of our interconnectedness in the global economy. Outsourcing is also a strategy to counteract brain drain and channel our talents and skills into reconstructing a Nigeria that works.
With the speeches done, the Vice President leads others for the cutting of the cake, symbolizing the start of the scheme.
One of the leading real estate firms in the country, Gidi Real Estate, in conjunction with Mid-Oil Refining and Petrochemicals Company Limited, is set to deliver a housing scheme in the Ekpe area of Lagos State. Tagged the Serene City, the project will feature a commercial and residential zone that includes a lagoon front, a golf course, a helipad, infinity pool, resort, healthcare center, fire service post, shopping mall, power plant, police station, and a neighborhood park. The estate is also expected to serve the expatriate staff of Mid-Oil Refinery that is coming up in Ekpe. The Chief Executive of Gidi Real Estate Investment Limited, Mr. Toby Akeredolu, as well as the representative of Mid-Oil Petrochemicals, Mrs. Amina Abdullahi, speak on the importance of the project to Nigeria's real estate sector.
It's always an avenue for others to replicate and do better. We see this in the Western world. It's time for us as Nigerians to come back home and do something better. Definitely, it can be replicated. But just that Serene City is unique in its own way because of the refinery that's coming on board, because of the size. This is 365 hectares of land. This is the biggest real estate, piece of real estate when it comes to residential building in the whole of Lagos. I will call on the government to keep on encouraging collaboration between the private sector and the government. With that, trust me, Nigerian real estate will put on that level.
One of the things that makes a staff that happy is to have accommodation. Once a staff has shelter over their heads, you see that they are happy.
It's time now for some business news with Joker Rogers.
Thanks, Ayo. Today, welcome to Business News. Importers in Nigeria may just be getting some much-needed relief as the Central Bank of Nigeria has slashed the exchange rate for computing customs duties at the nation's ports by 5.3%. Effective today, the customs forex duty rate dropped from 1,630 naira 15 kobo per dollar to 1,544 naira 8 kobo, representing a decrease of 86 naira 78 kobo per dollar to clear goods from the ports. Importers have been experiencing a lull at the ports, with many citing unfavorable business conditions due to high import duties and fluctuating forex rates for duty calculation. Transnational Corporation PLC has announced the listing of its subsidiary Transcorp Power PLC as a publicly trading company on the Nigerian Exchange Group with a market capitalization of 1.8 trillion naira. The company says its long-term goal is to be the leading power distribution company in the country.
As part of activities to announce its participation in the Nigerian stock market, the management of Transcorp Power PLC and the Nigerian Exchange Group gather for the traditional gong performed by the chairman of Transcorp Group, Mr. Tony Elumelu. The group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Alhaji Umaru Kwairanga, describes the coming on board of Transcorp Power PLC as a welcome development.
From what they have done today and from what they have achieved in other quoted companies around this NGS, this is a demonstration that more companies should come and be listed on the NGS so that people, the investing public, both locally and internationally, should come and share the success story.
The management of Transcorp Power PLC knows that it has put all necessary measures in place to contribute towards the growth of the nation's power sector.
The future is very bright. We're at the point where we are trying to make further investments to continue to improve our operational efficiency, improve the capacity for the plant, ultimately affecting the life of Nigerians. Our long-term aspiration is to power 1 in 4 homes, 4 industries, 4 hospitals in Nigeria.
Transcorp Power PLC operates the Uheli Power Plant in Delta State with an installed capacity of 972 megawatts from an available capacity of 160 megawatts at the time of acquisition. Chairman and billionaire businessman Mr. Elumelu speaks on the thrust of the company's investment in the power sector.
We want to improve access to electricity in Nigeria so we can drive employment. Our people need employment. So we can support small and medium-scale enterprises to do well. So we can support hospitals to function well. So we can support schools to operate very well. Those are the significant development, positive development you see when there's improvement in access to electricity.
As a member of the West African Power Pool and a participant in the ECOWAS regional electricity market, Transcorp Power PLC says it is set to boost Nigeria's economy through injection of more investments in the sector, looking forward to a capitalization to the tune of 500 billion naira in the nearest future.
Let's take a look at the domestic equities market. More figures from today. It kicked off its first full trading week in March in positive territory as the all-share index rose by 0.10%. This positive sentiment comes as Transcorp Power lists on the NGX, as you saw there. John Mekwa tells us more. everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the first trading day of the week at the NGX was a dramatic one. Now, let's see this. Bois Cement opened at 135 Naira, but closed at 141 Naira. That means it gained 6 Naira. That's about 4.44%. On the other hand, a major market mover, MTN, opened at 200 Naira 70 kobo, but closed at 185 Naira, losing 15 Naira 70 kobo. Now, who's going to determine the sentiment at the market at the close of the trade? We see Bois Cement gained just about 4%, 4.44%, while on the other hand, MTN shared 7.82%. Let's look at the all-share index and see who is more powerful. Well, it looks like Bois Cement did it because the market still closed in the green, 0.10% at 98,847.89, and the market cap at 55.889 trillion naira. Now, added to this is the new listing of today, Transcorp Power PLC. They were listed today, brought 1.8 trillion naira to that market cap. There you have it, market cap, and the share opened at 240 naira for a share. But I tell you, at the close of trade, they gained 10%. So I don't know if it's too late to go in there, but this is the second power company being listed at the NGX, and this makes the bull even happier than it was. That's Business News Tonight. Ayo, today, back to you.
Thank you so much, Joke. The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down efforts by individual states to bar former President Donald Trump from running as a presidential candidate for November's election. Here's Sami Puzo with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US Vice President Kamala Harris has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, saying people there are starving.
I must address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
She also urged Israel to significantly increase the flow of aid there. Earlier, Israel did not attend truce talks in Egypt, saying Hamas was not giving a list of hostages still alive. Hamas's team and mediators from the US and Qatar are understood to be in Egypt's capital, Cairo, for the planned negotiations. Pressure for a ceasefire deal intensified after Thursday's incident outside Gaza City in the north of the Palestinian enclave, where at least 112 people were killed when crowds rushed an aid convoy and Israeli troops opened fire. The government of Haiti has declared a 72-hour state of emergency after armed gangs stormed a major Port-au-Prince prison, leading to the killing of at least 12 people and the escape of around 4,000 inmates. Gang leaders say they want to force the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who is currently abroad. The groups aiming to oust him control around 80% of Port-au-Prince. Violent gang wars have killed thousands in the country since 2020. A government statement said 2 prisons were stormed over the weekend and it was enacting an immediate nighttime curfew in response. Nikki Haley has defeated Donald Trump in the Republican primary in Washington, D.C. This is her first victory over the former president in the 2024 campaign to become the Republican presidential candidate, making her the first woman to win a Republican primary in U.S. history. Mr. Trump, however, has a huge lead over Ms. Haley. The former UN ambassador says she no longer feels bound by a pledge made by the Republican National Committee that she would support the GOP presidential nominee.
The RNC is now not the same RNC. Now it's
so you're no
Trump's
longer bound by that pledge.
No, I think I'll make what decision I want to make, but that's not something I'm thinking about. And I think that while y'all think about that, I'm looking at the fact that we had thousands of people in Virginia. We're headed to North Carolina. We're going to continue to go to Vermont and Maine and all these states to go and show people that there is a path forward. And so I don't look at what ifs. I look at how do we continue the conversation.
The alleged gang rape of a tourist with a Brazilian-Spanish dual nationality in the eastern Indian state of Jharkhand has led to outrage. The 28-year-old woman and her husband, who were on a motorbike tour, had stopped for the night in Dumki district when the alleged attack took place. Police say that they have arrested 4 men and are searching for 3 more. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying 3 US astronauts and 1 Russian cosmonaut has blasted off from Florida bound for the International Space Station.
3, 2, 1, ignition, engines full power, and liftoff of NASA Crew 8. Go Falcon, go SpaceX, and go NASA.
The Crew 8 mission will be in space for 6 months. The 3 men and 1 woman are in a capsule used in space 4 times before by Elon Musk's SpaceX firm. There will be more than 200 science experiments that are to be concluded during the mission, scheduled to finish in mid-August. That's according to NASA's ISS program manager. Horses have been caught on camera trotting down the I-90 motorway in Cleveland, causing traffic to slow to a halt. Cars came to a stop as a pair of loose horses ran down a highway in Ohio. They were caught on traffic cameras running the wrong way down the highway. Cleveland police said the horses belonged to the police and had escaped their local stable. And high winds in Nevada and Utah have swept in huge amounts of tumbleweed, causing disruption on streets and surrounding houses. The National Weather Service has issued a weather alert for Nevada, parts of Arizona and California's Death Valley, with winds expected to reach up to 35 miles per hour. The weeds formed piles up to 3 meters high in some places. Similar scenes unfolded in Eagle Mountain, further to the south. Residents of South Jordan plowed through the weeds with hose and shovels before city workers arrived with garbage trucks to clean them up. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
And sports is now. Flying Eagles head coach Issa Ladan Bosso has picked 20 players for the men's football event at the 13th African Games taking place in Ghana. Meanwhile, coach Christopher Danjuma has also picked 20 players to represent Nigeria in the women's football event at the Games. And to other stories now. All right, that does it for us here on Sports. It's back to Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. Friends and colleagues of the former chief executive of Access Holdings, Herbert Wigwe, today held a night of tribute to celebrate his professional legacy. The event was held in Lagos. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Have a good night and please stay safe.